Welcome to The Disciplined Life. I'm Aria.
And I'm Coda.
We use our experience as a married couple living in a domestic discipline marriage to talk about the ups and downs of implementing authority structure and domestic discipline into modern relationships.
Let's do it. Hello, everyone.
Hey guys, welcome in. Today's topic is one that I'm excited to talk about. I think that it is something that we've touched on before, but not really an in-depth conversation for a whole podcast. So it's really talking about why would you even want a domestic discipline relationship and kind of why we chose this and why others might want to as well. Before we get started, if you are listening to us and you like what you hear, we invite you to subscribe. And if you are already subscribed, like the video and leave a comment. It really does help the channel. It boosts us in the algorithm, helps push us out to more listeners. And so that is an easy way to support the channel and support what we're doing here. But if you want to support the channel even further, a link to our Patreon is down below. And with your membership, you will get bonus content. So all those good things. So let's kind of get into the topic.
So as we mentioned, one of the things we want to talk about today is why we chose domestic discipline in the first place. Why was this something that we decided to even do for our relationship, and some of the details that kind of go along with why we chose that.
So if you've listened to past podcasts, you will already know that I was the one that brought domestic discipline up in our relationship. And my first motivation for that was to create more like structure in our relationship and to define our roles. Because up until that point, we were kind of going through our relationship with this sense of just kind of figuring out as we went along.
And it was very mundane, I would say.
Yeah, it was starting to really like hit a point of stagnation. At that point, we had been married for several years, and so we had gotten really familiar with each other and really familiar with how our relationship was functioning. And it wasn't that it was bad, it was just kind of run of the mill. It was just kind of, we were settling into these roles that I didn't think really played into either one of our strengths. And it was very much the typical like situation. And I didn't want to be typical anymore. I wanted to really have a relationship that was thriving.
Yeah, one of the things that I can tell you from my point of view was one of the things that we've really strived to do, and I know many of you, strive to do the same thing, is that I didn't want our relationship to be what I considered was always the norm that I heard from people, which was you have this beautiful time when you're dating and you're getting to know each other, you fall in love, you get married, and you have this beautiful season where it's the two of you and you're enjoying being married, and then maybe you potentially have kids. But then there was this weird thing that happened that I noticed where people then all of a sudden it was like they started to drift apart, or they just said, well, this is just the way marriage is. You know, this is the natural progression of marriage, where it just kind of becomes mundane. They just become more roommates than they do soulmates. And so for us, we really were looking for something that was going to take us not in the roommate direction, but the soulmate direction.
And so I realized that part of the thing that we were really missing was this sense of structure and communication and just knowing where the boundaries were and having a system to really make those boundaries more firm and more have accountability within that. And so really I was searching for something that would give us all of those things, and eventually I landed on domestic discipline, brought it to Coda, and when I brought it to you and you did your research, because obviously, again, we go more in detail in a very early podcast about how we introduced domestic discipline into our relationship, but you didn't really know the term domestic discipline.
No, I sure didn't.
You didn't know what that meant.
Nope.
And so after you did your research and you agreed to try this thing out, why did you agree?
Well, it was funny because, yeah, we've talked a lot about how, at first, when you brought it to me, first of all, I was surprised she brought it to me, but it just seemed total opposite of what I thought she might bring me. So at first, I just was kind of shocked. But I thought, well, if there must be something that she really likes about it. So as I delve into the research, my first inclination was, well, this is different. Let's try this. But there were also little things in it that I thought, you know what? If this works and we go about the right way, and she's already sold on it, like if I had been bringing this to her, I don't know. But the fact that she brought this to me, I think this has the potential to work. And if it works, I can see the benefits of how this is going to help our relationship. So that was honestly my thought process on the whole thing.
And so I think that it's really good to kind of say that our why in the beginning, the reason we wanted this, is very different than the reason we continue it today.
That's true. That's actually a really true statement.
And so, your reasoning behind wanting domestic discipline, the reason why domestic discipline will work for you or continues to work for you, that shifts and changes over time as your relationship progresses, as time goes on, as you grow in your roles, all of those things. The why really does shift right along with your growth in your relationship.
Yeah, and that's okay.
Because your motivation and your reasoning is going to be unique to your relationship.
Absolutely.
Our motivation might resonate with you, but it might not. And so we're going to go over some common reasons why people choose to or choose to continue to use domestic discipline in their relationships. And we'll kind of go over these common reasons. And of course, there's going to be some others that we don't cover, but these are the most common reasons that I could think of that I've seen talked about in other places as well. We're going to kind of talk through those for us and hopefully present them in a way that you can kind of see if those are things that you also resonate with.
Absolutely. So, one of the first things that I believe that domestic discipline really helps you to do is if you're having trouble figuring out where your place is in the relationship, how your relationship is structured, what role you need to play. Um, those things really can be solved by domestic discipline. And that was actually something that I think Aria and I struggled with just a little bit. Because again, societal norms are just different and they cause a little bit of confusion at times. And so, what we wanted to do is lessen that confusion. So immediately, the domestic discipline relationship allowed us to say, okay, each of us, again, have a role to play in this relationship. What is it? Where is it best suited in the relationship so that it works more cohesively and that we enjoy, again, being married and having a relationship together to where we indeed are complementing one another in the relationship and not trying to have an unnecessary tension or pulling each other apart, which is what you really don't want.
Right. And so it really helped me as the taken in hand be able to understand my role in the relationship. And really, it helped me understand Coda's role in the relationship too, and understand where my responsibilities lie, where his responsibilities lie, and how those really do work together for us to work as a unit in our pursuit of our goals.
One of the things that can be really, really detrimental, I think, to a lot of relationships is some people scoff at the idea of structure. They scoff at the idea of somebody needing to be in a certain role and another person being in another because maybe they look at that role as lesser than. The biggest thing that you need to remember in a domestic discipline relationship is neither person, regardless of what role they're in, is lesser than. We've talked a lot about value. The value doesn't change. It's just the structure of things. And that is really a thing that really helps you in a domestic discipline relationship. I would hope Aria wouldn't say that she feels less valued. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong, you might say that this gave you more value and helped you value yourself more.
Right. I was going to say I definitely feel more valued. I see the value within myself more clearly. I don't think that you ever devalued me in our relationship. So
That's a good
that's
thing. I'm glad to know that.
so that's definitely something to state that I never felt devalued in our relationship, but this has just given me a sense of purpose that has created a more clear value within my role and within my position in our relationship.
Good. And I can tell you, for me, that this has given me I didn't think I lacked in this department, but it's given me confidence. It's given me the clarity that I needed. It's given me the structure that I needed. More importantly, it's almost given me a calling. And what I mean by that is that before, I didn't know how to lead my family. I didn't know how to be a head of household necessarily, and to take burdens off of Arya that she didn't need to have or that she didn't need to carry, but that I was more than capable of doing that. And so in a way, it's helped me realize, hey, there are certain things that I can do as the head of household that give me purpose but take strain off of her. And so that's what I mean by calling, is that it has helped me to really find out where I need to put my efforts and put my attention.
It's helped me view you as a leader and as it's helped me like see you as being the strong masculine figure in our home in a way that I didn't before because we were trying to be collaborative in how we did everything. And by you taking the lead and making decisions and taking that authority and holding me accountable to coming under that authority, it's really helped me just see you in a different way that's been very positive.
I'm actually glad to know that. And in the same way, it has helped me really look at her in a more positive way, and it's helped me cherish her more. Um, I think again, with the way some things can be structured sometime in some relationships, it you lose how you cherish somebody, or you lose respect and things like that, because the structure is lacking. And domestic discipline has really helped us structure our life.
So really that's the first point, is that it creates more structure and more defined roles. I think we've already kind of covered this. My second point was it creates order and balance, and I think we kind of talked
We
about
did. We kind of
that.
touched on that almost together. But yeah.
And also we touched on this a little bit, so if we want to elaborate we can, but it offers accountability.
Mm.
And I don't know about you, but when I know that I'm in the wrong, I really need that sense of accountability to know that I'm not being left to my own devices. And it's almost like if I don't want to live in a lawless society and I don't want to live in a lawless marriage. And so having that accountability really does help me function and help me thrive within my role. And this sense of accountability could also be defined as boundaries, setting
Mm.
boundaries and living within boundaries. So that's another way you can think about it. If this idea of accountability is a little abstract, think about it as boundaries because it's basically the same thing.
Boundaries is a great word, and boundaries sometimes can be looked at as, oh, what, that is a terrible word. But you actually don't realize that boundaries actually give you strength and help you, rather than if you have no boundaries. That's one thing we've discovered.
And boundaries create safety. Coda creates boundaries to keep me safe from the things that could penetrate our relationship. I don't need to be kept safe from Coda because he is my protector.
I hope not anyway. But and some of those things can be that I'm protecting Arya from herself, and not that she's this out of control person, but there are certain habits that she would like to change, or that she knows she can get into if not being held accountable to those boundaries. And so that's where I think she's getting at, is that it's very, very important for her that I keep her within certain boundaries. And you'll find as a leader, as the head of household, by doing that too, you realize you've got to set boundaries for yourself as well and hold yourself accountable to those things.
Exactly. And so part of creating boundaries and holding accountability, that all lends itself to my next point, which is growth. Like,
That's a hard word.
the reason why domestic discipline is such a benefit to so many people is it gives you a system that you can really grow and develop, not only as an individual, but also as a couple.
You have this parallel growth that happens between the head of household and the taken in hand. And it really is a beautiful thing. It's not an easy process sometimes. And sometimes it can be very painful for your relationship because it brings out things that you need to deal with that you hadn't before, that you didn't realize were buried below the surface. But when you deal with those things, when you grow together, you will grow together as well as growing up in all of those things. And it really is amazing how it brings you together and how it makes your relationship sweeter rather than what you don't want to have happen, which is grow apart from each other.
And part of that is with those defined roles that really do complement each other, and having this system to have very clearly defined roles where the head of household is functioning within his role and the taken in hand is functioning within her role, to come together and function together as a unit towards those goals, it naturally creates a system where you are experiencing that parallel growth. Growth happens for both the head of household and the taken in hand.
Yep.
I think that sometimes we think that this is the taken in hand's journey, that the head
Hmm.
of household is just sitting on top of the hill and he is completely actualized in his role, and then he's just guiding the taken in hand up to him. No, you really are on this journey together. I know for us, I have learned so much about submission and coming under authority and being held accountable and trusting my head of household and doing all of those things that are within my role. But I know that Coda has also been on his own journey of growth, of learning how to take that lead and how to function within his role.
It has helped me hopefully become a better husband, better father, but it's also helped me become a better person. The things that I have learned on in trying to be a better head of household and to hold Arya accountable and to those boundaries that we had talked about, I realized where I was lacking in those things in my everyday life. And so it really has helped me become a better person, a better leader, all of those different things. And so, yeah, I think it's a really good point that you bring up that head of households don't think that on this journey that you're just at the very, very peak of the mountain and you're just trying to encourage the taking of hand to come up where you are. It is not somebody above or below. You actually are growing together. You're making this climb together.
And that lends itself to the next point, which it really does create a sense of unity within the relationship. It unites you into being together in a way that it would be harder to accomplish that without a sense of authority and accountability. And with domestic discipline, the structure just lends itself to creating that situation to have unity.
I will tell you, I don't know if you feel the exact same way. I've actually never asked Aria this question, but so feel free to jump in as I say. But when she talks about building that unity, what I found is that our unity continues to get so close that when I drop the ball on something, or maybe I don't do something quite right and I actually hurt her, I feel that hurt myself truly, as if there's this saying that your partner is, when you do something to harm them, that you're actually harming your own body. I actually get that. I feel that because when she is hurt on an emotional level, when I say or do something stupid, or I don't hold her accountable to the rules, or I fail, whatever it is, I fail in that role and it hurts her somehow, especially emotionally, I feel that. and I feel awful about it. And it's good because then we're able to reconcile, we're able to work through that, and we actually get closer because of that. But that's the connection that you feel. I really don't know how to describe it other than that, but it is a very, very close connection that when your partner is hurting, you're hurting along with them.
I feel that too when I don't follow the rules or when I'm disrespectful to you or something happens that is my responsibility. That's why, in my opinion, like punishment is so powerful because it gives me a way to bridge that and to feel reconciled within our relationship. It gives you a way to hold me accountable to fix the thing that I did. And so that's the reason why punishment is really an important part of our relationship and an important part of domestic discipline is because when I do something that's outside of my role, it is a path towards reconciliation for me. And I think that that's kind of the hard part about being the head of household is that you don't necessarily have that clear path to reconciliation quite as clearly defined as the taken in hand.
Yeah, you're right because, but she brought up just now how important the punishment is. Um, yes, it is not just for her, but I find that that is why, and we've already gone into detail about how we do punishment. That I go on that journey with her in a different way, and so it allows me to have that clean slate as well. It allows me to potentially learn where I messed up and maybe didn't hold her accountable enough to certain things, or where I potentially am punishing her for not necessarily the wrong thing, but maybe I've missed the mark just a little bit. Though that is an important journey for the both of you, and so it's very, very important that you realize that you're on this journey together.
But it's also important to note because you kind of said that in a way that I feel like might be mistaken is I'm only ever punished when I do something
Right.
that goes against my role.
Right.
Like if Coda drops the ball and I haven't actually violated the rules at all, I'm not punished for his failing.
Right.
And that's kind of what I was talking about is like, when you drop the ball and I haven't, it's harder for you to feel reconciled in those
It's very,
situations.
very true. And so, but that's where what we've talked about, that's where conversations can come into play as a part of the domestic discipline. And that's another way that you bring yourselves closer together as you work through those things.
And working through all of those things creates harmony within the relationship. It really
Hopefully. No.
hopefully over time as you grow in your communication, as you grow in your roles, as you develop how you function as a couple and how you use discipline to support the goals that you have, the goal really is to create more harmony in the relationship so that your day-to-day life is very harmonious and very, I hate to use the word easygoing.
I think that's a good word, though. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Well, because I don't want to give the impression that domestic discipline is an easy relationship style. It takes a
Sure. It
lot of
takes work.
effort,
Hmm.
and continual effort, and it takes really understanding responsibility. And responsibility comes with a certain level of work. Um, but your day-to-day life, your day-to-day interactions become very joyful and very harmonious. You enjoy spending time together. You enjoy the structure of your relationship and your home life in a way that we certainly didn't experience before having domestic discipline.
That's so true. And but when you do that and you recognize where the boundaries are and all of those kind of things, that's where that harmony does come in. And you will find as and I don't think easygoing is a bad thing. When you do that, the more you do it, the more you find, wow, I actually do feel less burdened. I do feel as though this is going to be a good path for me. This is actually going to benefit me in the long run. I feel happier. I'm more joyful. The problems are slowly going away. They're not totally gone, but the little things that used to just eat away at our relationship, all of that stuff is actually gone and it's actually better overall.
The last point that I wanted to bring up is all of these things that we've talked about having clearly defined roles, having good communication, having a more harmonious relationship, and having more unity. All of these things really do lend themselves to the deepening intimacy that domestic discipline brings to your relationship. Not only emotional intimacy, which I definitely feel like there's a deeper emotional connection between us, but it really does create a scenario where your physical intimacy benefits as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It benefits on everything benefits on all fronts. It really does. And you'll be surprised if you just continue down this road how much a stress-free it makes in your relationship. What I have found is when the stress creeps in, is when something is just a little broken, boundaries have been violated, or as the head of household, I am not holding her to the boundaries and myself to the boundaries that we've set up. Otherwise, if it's working the way it should, you'll be shocked on how easygoing it really is.
Yeah. And when you are enjoying each other, you are more willing to really enjoy each other on in every way, and that just creates a level of intimate connection that just is unmatched. It really is. So,
Absolutely. Is take all of this and remember at the end of the day, this is to help you enjoy your relationship more. This is not about adding more stress or unwanted, oh, I have to do this. So Arya said something very, very important last week that it really stuck with me and it was really good. Think of this as something you get to do, not that you have to do. When you look at some things in life that way, like, hey, I get to do this, I don't have to, that's when it is enjoyable. So look at your domestic discipline relationship because to a certain extent, it is something you chose to do. You don't have to continue to do it. So think of this is something we get to do. We don't have to do it, but we get to do it. And the reason we've decided to do it and we get to do it is because we want a great relationship.
yeah, we would love to know if you are in a domestic discipline relationship or you're thinking about starting a domestic discipline relationship. What is the motivation behind that? What is your why? We would love to know that. Leave it in a comment. And again, if you want to support what we do and get bonus content, a link to our Patreon is down below. And until next week, we will see you guys later.
Take care.